Welcome, everybody. I'd like to call the special city council meeting of June 25th, 2025 to order. Sandra.
Mayor David Romero. Councilor Marvin Martinez.
Present.
Councilor Barbara Casey.
Here.
Councilor Michael Montoya.
Present.
Councilor David Ulibarri.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Martinez. 1 minute silence.
Today's a very important day for our community as we make a decision based on the quality, the water delivery to our people. And I just want to ask that everybody keep, their hearts in it, their soul in it, their prayers in it, so we can always make good decisions moving forward for our community. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, approval of the agenda.
I have a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
A motion by Councilor Casey, second by Councilman Martinez. All in favor, say aye. Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to public input. We have no public input this morning. However, we do have a recommendation from our city manager for the minutes of this meeting that he is recommending that they be verbatim due to the subject matter. It's a recommendation.
Any disagreements on that? All right.
I know, I have to watch what I say.
Is there a consensus?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to our business items. Business item 1, consideration and possible action of the State of New Mexico intergovernmental agreement with the City of Las Vegas. Mr. City Manager Anaya?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before I get into the text and the content of what we're going to discuss today, I want to, highlight what Councilor Martinez just said. I think that today's discussion, regardless of the determination, the questions, or the ultimate outcome, the discussion that we're going to have is a very intense discussion associated with the future of the city of Las Vegas relative to the water treatment facility and the plant. And so I think that that puts a good frame of reference on what we're going to dive into today. The other thing that I wanted to add is in just a short amount of time here at the City of Las Vegas, I want to attest to each of you here, the mayor and council, that the staff that exists at the City of Las Vegas has been through a lot, just like you have, and are an exceptional group of folks. I want to say that on the record. I also want to say that the support structures and consultant members that have facilitated supporting the city of Las Vegas are, I put in the same regard. And so it's been a humbling experience over the last several weeks, in particular related to this particular issue and the manner in which it came about. But the team has been front and center. I've pulled in additional members of the leadership team into the discussion that weren't involved previously. And so I've been real cognizant to make sure that the clerk has been included and other department leaders that are here today, some of which had other commitments, but they're going to stay in the process regardless of the determination of the city of the mayor and council to this decision, because it's important that we keep our leadership informed. It's important that we keep the overall city informed, and and work together in a strategic manner. And so, regardless of the outcome of today's discussion, you have a good team, and we're going to continue to work together to work through the challenges that lie ahead. The first thing I'd like to do, if it's okay, Mayor, is I would like to, the mayor and council, so one other thing I wanted to know. There continually will be things that come to you from me and my responsibility as city manager, and my preference is to get them to you as soon as possible. But note that there's no malice when I get them to you, when I get them to you. I'm specifically referring to a document that you received yesterday that I've had for over a week, relative to Dr. Howe's recommendations. Dr. Howe is here today, and he's gonna get into some discussion about those recommendations, but we went through those. I went through them myself for the first time in detail yesterday. We went through that particular document yesterday, not just myself, but we went through it with the whole leadership team. And I said, we need to get this in the hands of the full council right away. And so I just note that because it's an important document. And I think it's a good document, like I said, and you'll hear me say it many times today, whether or not you make a determination to move forward with the state of New Mexico or not. That particular document, I think, is a good structural outline on what should be included as any entity, for that matter, would seek the construction or plan design construction of a treatment facility of this nature. And so we'll get into that more later, but I did want to note that as well on the record. Thank you for affording the clerk the opportunity to do verbatim minutes on this particular meeting. I think it's important for the record that we capture everything verbatim. Like I said, regardless of the determination that the city makes. So I'd like to just go ahead and jump in by asking the mayor and council if you could, I provided a memo that captured feedback that I had received from the mayor and council. We have some other items as well that we want to help the council address that were raised by the mayor and council, but I wanted to just start off by going to you first to provide us, myself, and I have our team ready to help facilitate answering or clarifying questions. So I wanted to, if I could, Mayor, go to the council first to hear some of the key things that they have questions on still, and clarity that you're seeking as a mayor and council.
And councilors?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Olivari?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very important document. Mr. City Manager, it's been taking a while to take care of this. But what I see is our Harmon Speak fires ruined our facility. Not really ruined it, but it was, you guys took care of it, whoever was in charge, the staff. But now we have a document here that's gonna be here for a lot of years. And our main thing here in this little small town is water. It's been always water for the past, since I've been around. And the thing is that it's something really special to our council and to our city staff. I just want to acknowledge everybody that's been involved in getting this thing taken care of. And hopefully we can go at least 40, 50 years without having any problems. We are going to have a little bit of problems, but we can take care of it, and that's part of our journey. So I want to thank everybody for doing a fine job on this. Thank you.
Councilors?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Martinez?
just listening to Counselor Ulibarri mention, how far this goes back is an important step. How we move forward, I guess. Our community has suffered water problems for, 80, 100 years. And the size of this community is based on the ability to make water for our community, whether it be businesses or residential or anything else moving forward. I just hope that we can always come to a consensus in reference to leaving the dirty politics out of making any good decisions for our community. I want to make sure that we always can work together with the state. Naturally, it's an important piece because they also hold a big hand in permitting and all the other resources that they can offer. But nevertheless, if we can keep politics away from this and make our community whole by offering them the quality of life that they deserve, and that quality of life is assuring them that they have the water they need to succeed in life and for our community to succeed. So I just, I want to make sure that that we have good direction and we understand fact, and that we are wholeheartedly involved in making good decisions moving forward. I just applaud the team for everybody being here. I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this monumental movement of making sure that our community survives and that we do what's necessary to make that happen. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Montoya?
I'll refrain from comments till I hear from our presenters.
Councilor Casey?
I think I probably have a lot to say. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Howe for his email. I thought that he brought forth a lot of salient parts that we need to really think about and focus on, and I appreciate that very much. I think that this is not an agreement that we should take lightly or that we should act on just because, whoever says this is something that you need to do. As I've said before at the last meeting, I have some real concerns about the state stepping in. And the idea that they can subcontract with whomever they want is a real issue for me. I know that they clearly believe that they have experts, but just from personal experience from having served in the legislature for 12 years and always been involved in what's happening at the legislative level, I have some very serious concerns about really how much expertise the people who are currently there have. And I'm not saying that they're not qualified to hold the positions that they have. However, I don't think that they have the expertise, the same expertise that we have currently with the Seltzer Group and others that we have already had contracts with. And that is a real concern for me. I also have a real concern about the state wanting to use investment money from the 98 million for, whatever they pretty much want. It says utilize investment income from advanced federal or state law if needed. And I have a problem with that because that means that they can do whatever they want with investment money, and we don't really have a say in that. And I don't like that one bit. I think there are a lot of issues with the current, even the wording, the new wording that has been added to the agreement. And I don't agree with much of the language, and I did look it over very carefully several times over the weekend. And so I have some issues with that. I would like to know how much of the loans that we got in, from the 2023 and 24 SB 6 loans, how much of those have been paid back? How much do we owe? And whatever has been paid back, where did that money come from? Did it come from our general fund? Where did that money come from our budget? I need to know those things before I feel comfortable about this. And it says that the state will be the primary liaison with federal agencies regarding overall state level of compliance and reporting. I don't quite agree with that either. In terms of the state will receive FEMA public assistant reimbursement on behalf of the city. I definitely don't like that because we may not even be told what kind of reimbursement has been received by the state from FEMA funding. And so will they let us know how much the reimbursements will be? And one of the items even reads that the state will conduct reviews and audits of the city's records, but if we don't have pertinent information, how can they do that with any credibility? I'm very, very concerned about that too. I'm concerned about the agreement that we have with FEMA. What happens to that? Is it just going to sit there and pretend we don't have it? Is it going to have to be reworked? What will happen with that agreement? They have a timeline for us. I think it's a reasonable timeline, and although many people think that we're just dragging our feet, I don't believe that we are. These types of issues take a long time to get the right people to plan and design a new water treatment facility. It takes time to put out an RFP. You can't do an RFP in a month for a project like ours. It's huge. And so we need to make sure that we have people who are qualified to do what they need to be doing.
Counselor.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, Counselor, could you go over the item before that one? I'm going to capture these and I want to address them one at a time if I can. Just the item before.
I don't know what I said in the item before.
The
public
timeline, the one before the timeline. I just want to.
Public assistance. The item
Oh,
on public assistance.
The MOU.
The
Yeah.
connection to the MOE. Thank you. Thank you, Counselor Casey.
And this is, I know Councilor Martinez said, let's keep this not political, but realistically speaking, how many people in Las Vegas have said the council is doing nothing? They don't know what we've done because we have not been transparent enough. And although attempts have been made at transparency, people still do not know what's going on. So they think we all just divided up the 98 million among ourselves and we're having a wonderful time with it. And so that has to be, that line of thinking has to be dissipated and erased. I'm concerned about the public perception, especially for those on this council and the governing body, the mayor, who may want to run for office, are going to be dead in the water if we just hand everything over to the governor, to the state, and say, ooh, we knew it. They don't even know what they're doing. They're going to give it to the governor and let them worry about it. Is that the kind of perception that we want? I certainly don't. My reputation is very important to me, and what I do is very important to me, and I want to make people understand that while I am here on this council, everything that I do is focused on what is best for the community, not for myself. So there's a lot to think about. I think that this would be a very negative move on our part. And I think that we have to be very careful about what we do. And if this council chooses to vote in favor of this agreement, then the repercussions of having done that will have to be dealt with in the future. And I don't know how well that will actually resonate with how things really should be going. And that's all I want to say for now. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Casey, what I would like to do is, I'd like to take them one at a time. So I'd like to first have Mr. Madrid, if you would come to the microphone, please. And if you need to bring any papers with you, please do so. The first thing I'd like you to address is her first, Councilwoman's first point. Please provide a breakdown of the SB 6 resources, the $21 million allocations from 3 different pots, and where we have made expenditures associated with SB 6.
The short answer, Counselor, is yes, it is about $21 million. We have made expenditures related to emergency work and water. We have 3 main vendors that have provided services to us. We have a record of their expenditures, a summary, and it includes purchases of water, the temporary Veolia system, earthwork, and other work related to the winterization of our water treatment plant, electrical power, things like that. The main expenditures have been for water, provision of bottled water and trucked-in water. For those 3 main things, we have spent, our records show about $11 million. There may be some of that that is not reimbursable from the February incident. To answer your other question, we have not repaid any of this loan money. Not $1 has been repaid yet.
So, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Casey's question, Mr. Madrid, they're eligible for use to be drawn from SB 6 money, but we have made no draws against the payments back to the state for work done.
That is correct.
So we're tracking the eligible payments
Yes.
and utilizing the SB 6 money for the items you just articulated.
Yes.
Is that
and
correct?
That's correct. And we understand that we have to do kind of a dual tracking, some for the state and some for the federal government. So our records are required to be maintained to comply with both.
So I want to make sure that we're clear. We've spent, associated with SB 6 loan resources that were provided by the state legislature, $11 million.
At least.
At least 11.
At least.
So, Councilor Casey, Mayor, Councilor Casey, members of the council, this goes to your point made earlier, duly noted, that it's incumbent on us to convey to yourselves and to the public the actual use of resources that are connected to the resources provided by the legislature, which in the meeting on May the 28th was referenced as zero, right? So it's on us to do a better job to convey those expenditures in this forum so that you have the information as well as the public. Thank you, Mr. Madrid. You can just sit tight there for a minute, and then we'll go through some of these others.
Mr. Mayor.
Mayor,
Have something to say, or you had a question?
go ahead.
Counselor?
Before you move on, Mr. Anaya, so, Mr. Madrid, out of the Senate Bill 6, we borrowed $14 million,
Yes.
and we spent $11
Well,
million?
it's a total of 21.
21.
Around 21.
Okay. And we still have $14 million available?
No. No, we have, I would estimate around 3 or 4 million available. We've accumulated, I'm going to estimate over 15 million in expenditures. The 11.6 that I just quoted are for 3 vendors that had been questioned earlier.
Okay. And you're saying that the balance of it is going to be used for what?
It's got to be used for the same intent as the rest of it. There are some expenditures that may or may not qualify. So I'm estimating we have some money left, but we've spent the majority of it.
And to clarify, $10 million for water usage, bottled water and transfer water was paid out of that, or no?
For the June event,
Yes,
yes.
that was already paid off?
I believe most of those have been paid off. I'm not sure that all of them have been paid. We've had delays in invoicing.
With that money,
Yes.
but that was done within the last week.
No. Within the last week, we received invoices from some of these companies for the February event. That's completely unrelated to the June money, to the SB 6 money.
Okay, because last week's meeting that we had, you said we owed $10 million outstanding for water transport and water bottles.
That's for the February incident,
Yes,
not the Senate Bill 6 money.
okay, so that's still outstanding.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
still outstanding.
There's a separation. Counselor?
Thank you. In looking at the Senate Bill 6 documents that are in our packet, the Senate Bill 6 loan of April 2024 was $14,964,619. And that says that the agreement with the city has to pay within 30 days of receipt of approved federal public assistance funding. Okay? So we haven't paid any of that back. And then in June 2024, from money from the Senate Bill 6 2023 appropriation, it says that there was $5,608,958. So where are we on, are you just combining those two? When you talk about Senate Bill 6, or which one has been used to pay what?
So Counselor, I don't know, Morris, probably Deb could help here. So the 5 million was specific for the pretreatment plant. So there's a separation on the two funds. So the 5 million is more specific. Mr. Manager, if
Right.
Deb could join in, just for clarification.
Finance Director, do you know? You should know. Finance Director.
Good morning, everyone. Just for clarification, I think that it's important that everybody understand that the Senate Bill 6 money was tied to FEMA public assistance projects that were in the queue. So based on where they were in the FEMA process, the governor allocated $100 million to the disaster to then take and front that money ahead of time to facilitate the cash flow of those projects. The $5.6 million that one of those loan agreements refers to had to do with the temporary facility. So that $5.6 million was fronted to the city, And then what we're doing on the public assistance side is we're building the project to then have the proceeds to pay off that loan. So all of the expenditures that Mr. Madrid talks about with regard to the water treatment facility, the temporary facility, that is being tagged to the $5.6 million. So that would include the ActiFlow Viola, that would include the installation construction related to that, which is, I think Magnum is the primary. That would include a lot of Alpha Southwest invoices that had to do with repairs and things that had to be done to the current facility to get it into that stable, steady, ready set so that we could operate that as the temporary facility. That would include if the city were to pursue the GAC system that we asked for in the temporary facility, that would go to deal with the sludge pit modifications that had to be made. A lot of things could go into that bucket of money, and those are included in the temporary facility project that's currently with FEMA Public Assistance. So to your point, a lot of the reimbursement funding that we're looking for pursuing in that particular project would then go to the city, and then the city would repay the $5.6 million. And the same goes for the other two loans. I think there were two other ones, one for 14.1 million, one for 2-point-something million. Those were actually tied to debris projects that had been obligated by the city. When we had the June event, the city manager, and I don't remember who else all was in the room, specifically asked DFA and DHSEM if those proceeds could be used to fund the emergency that was ongoing, and there was permission granted to do that. So that's sort of the history on Senate Bill 6 stuff. So most of it's tied to a FEMA public assistance project.
And Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Casey, I would add this clarifying point that so the intent of the SB 6 money has been utilized within the intent of the law, but we have not received reimbursement yet to be able to pay back the state of New Mexico. I would just make that clarifying point.
And also for clarification, Deb, so when you do put in these projects, they get approved through DHSEM, and then FEMA does pay through public assistance. At the end, the money will never come to the city. It'll get paid to DHSEM that basically pays off the loan. Am I correct in saying that?
On the 5.6 for sure, that'll go to DFA to repay that 5.6 loan. So the reimbursements that we've got for reimbursements that we'll receive for the funding for the temporary facility up to $5.6 million will be used to go, instead of going straight, it'll come to the city, but then it'll go to DFA for repayment of the loan. I mean, there are provisions that say you can not do that, but I think it's the intent of everyone to repay the loans. They're pretty flexible. So if the temporary facility goes, say the cost, if everything that we asked for the temporary facility gets funded, it'll be more than 5.6. So then after that 5.6 loan is paid off, then the city would, any expenses that the city incurs at that point would come straight to the city, and it wouldn't have to go to DFA at that point. But that's tagged just to the temporary facility.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Deborah. You guys can just sit tight for a minute. Question that you raised, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Casey, reimbursements on behalf of the city associated with this agreement, if the agreement was initiated, would we be involved? I will comment this way, and this goes along with the discussions in the back and forth that went about related to the first document to the last document in coordination with Mr. Zamora, our counsel. I feel comfortable in the document that we will be at the table associated with determinations throughout the project from the inception through the completion, before I walked in this room, I had another follow-up conversation with Mr. Zamora, and I asked that very question explicitly. It's important to the city council and to me, as the manager of the city and the staff, that we have involvement throughout the process, from the beginning, through the construction, through the operation, and through the ultimate hand back to the city of Las Vegas on the work. Based on those discussions and the language that we added to the agreement, we will be part of the discussions and the implementation from the start to the end, including reimbursement requests associated back to the city. I give you that feedback based on our work that we did in negotiating the agreement and the feedback that I got back from our counsel, Mr. Zamora, associated with that particular point. How do we audit? How can we audit if we do not know what's going on? That's an excellent question associated with the document. We are, as part of the joint agreement, responsible to review, along with the state of New Mexico, what's happening and be part of the decision-making process as it evolves. Mr. Madrid, could you speak to the document relative to the reimbursements and our involvement as part of the agreement?
Well, the document says that we are responsible to reimburse the state. There is not any language there, nor could there be, that would relieve us of our responsibility to review for compliance with all state and federal regulations, our own internal controls. That would remain in place. So if, for example, as an outlandish example, I received a reimbursement request to pay the governor of New Mexico a $50,000 consulting fee, absolutely our controls would take effect and we would not allow that. We would question it. So it is not as if we would not review for compliance and all the normal controls that we have in place. Those would remain in place, and we'd be required still to comply with all the legal and ethical requirements that we comply with today.
Mayor, Mr. Madrid, could you comment? We had a specific question related to the interface between the federal requirements and Councilor Casey noted our obligations with FEMA, but can you comment to the feedback that we got relative to compliance with federal requirements as well as state requirements that's actually explicit in the agreement, and the feedback that we received from Mr. Zamora this morning?
Well, and I think there's two components to that. One regards cash management and the other regards procurement. Would you like me to?
You can touch on both.
The first one, in regard to cash management, we've had discussions with our attorney and some federal legal counsel in regard to that. And it seems that under this agreement, the investment earnings would be tied to the principal of the 98 million that we received. We don't disagree with that. Where the questions arise are in that particular regard. We have a minor question, maybe a major question on, is it settlement versus normal federal funding? There may be different guidelines for that. But the real conflict that I see in federal regulation is that if federal regulations apply, and we have language in here that exempts the state from complying with the procurement code, then where does that leave everyone in compliance with federal procurement? That's not addressed here, and that is a major question. So those are things that remain unresolved. We do not question at this point, that the investment income remains tied to the principal.
Let's take them one at a time. There actually is a provision here that directly connects federal compliance with state compliance in the agreement that we have in the last version. But speaking to the interest piece is what you're speaking to. You want to elaborate on that particular piece?
Yes.
You brought it up.
And in normal federal regulations, you should not be able to earn interest or other investment income on federal dollars and be able to keep it. It's either turned back to the government in some way. In some forms of grant administration is considered program income and must remain with the program and be spent for that particular purpose. Those are at least that's the principle that's contained in the agreement. And that may have some ground to it. The only way that compliance would not be required is if this is considered a settlement payment. So we have some different opinions on that. That is another question that remains. But at this point, I don't see a reason to argue the point that the two should be tied together and remain together. We agree with that standing right now.
So I want to just cite two things on the record. Page 5, item C. Fiscal and administrative standards. Fiscal and administrative standards. The state shall adhere to all local, state, and federal regulations as applicable to their operations. States shall adhere to the following fiscal administrative standards in accordance with Title II, CFR Part 200, State of New Mexico Manual Model Accounting Practices, 3, State of New Mexico Auditor, State Audit Rule, 4, Title II CFR Chapter 1, Part 170, and 5, U.S. Governmental Accounting Office Government Auditing Standards. Under Exhibit A, which is in the back of the agreement, scope of work, under the State of New Mexico shall, F, adhere to 2 CFR Part 200 and all federal and state procurement, contracting, cost principles, and financial management requirements. So I just wanted to note those two items for the record. Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Casey, you noted the timeline. The timeline was brought up in discussions early on by the mayor. I'll let the mayor speak to that directly. Councilman Montoya specifically noted the request relative to the 1.5-year period, 1.5-year period that was noted at the May 28th meeting, and yourself have noted it now on the record. And so my feedback to you is that it's my intent as part of this discussion is that if there are specific recommendations that come from the city council relative to the agreement that we could recess on and I could pose, request, ask of the state for consideration of, I think we should do that. And so that's one item that I know has been brought to light. We had the discussion with the state prior to the agreement being brought to the council, but the council has every right and is entitled to do the same. And so I would say as a recommendation that we can compile a list of items that the council themselves may want me to request directly for additional clarification / insertion into the agreement. And so, that's my thought relative to timeline. Mayor, is there anything else that you wanted to add relative to that?
No, I know when we did meet June 12th with the state, that was one of the questions that I posed. I know at the last meeting, Councilman Montoya brought it up and Councilor Casey. I guess my whole concern on that has been, the governor's term is for a year, basically a year and a half. A new governor comes in, are they going to be willing to continue with the project, or do they just, the state just, basically says, okay, here, it's yours, and that's where the whole concern of us sitting at the table and having big decision, and being a decision maker at the table, because if that at the beginning of this MOU, a lot of the responsibility was solely on the state, and of course, I think I feel comfortable with the agreement that you have, worked along with staff and consultants in collaboration with the state. So I'm comfortable with it, but I still have that concern about the timeline. Whereas, what happens after the end of the governor's term? If it's not, if the plant isn't built within the year and a half, what happens then? A new governor comes in, they say, we don't want to continue this MOU anymore, and they take up the 90-day exception to cancel this MOU. So that's I guess a concern of mine. As the state. I mean, I know secretaries are all appointed by the governor, but within the state, is there still that willingness to participate with us to continue and make sure that this is finished, despite being a new governor? I guess that's one of my concerns.
So, Mr. Mayor and full council, if I could comment and say, there's one clause in this agreement that I think is probably the biggest leverage that the city council has relative to this agreement if the agreement is approved. And that particular clause is Section 4, termination. The parties may terminate this agreement within 90 days with notice to the other party. I think within this particular clause, and I think we'll reference it several times today, gives the latitude to either party to terminate the agreement, plain and simple, but that if we would engage in this agreement with the state, we would know in short order whether or not the terms and provisions that our legal counsel has recommended to us have the teeth or not, right? Is what I would suggest to all of you. It mandates that we have meetings minimum monthly, and I'm going to anticipate that we're probably going to need more than monthly meetings. And within that process, in the joint working group section of the agreement, you're going to know quickly and promptly from me, based on every meeting that we have associated with the agreement. And so if we engage in this agreement and we establish the joint working group, which is going to be inclusive of leaders sitting in this room at that same table, and we are not being afforded the opportunity to provide the input that's implied in the agreement and directly stated in the agreement, then you're going to hear it directly and promptly from me, and probably other members of the leadership team. And so I would not note that as an endpoint for this discussion, because we're just starting this discussion today, but I would note it as a prominent piece and point in the language that we have in front of us. And so I just wanted to state that at this time. One of the other things that you noted, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Casey, is we have not been transparent enough, and we need to work on that. I couldn't agree with you more, regardless of the determination and the outcome of this agreement, it's incumbent on us to communicate in every possible modality that we can, not just the city council meetings, but whatever external information that we can provide to the public and the citizens as to the work that we're doing and have been doing. And that relates to the agreement, and it doesn't relate to the agreement at all. That just relates to our obligation and responsibility to you, the mayor and the governing council of the city of Las Vegas, and the information we provide to the public. So I agree and concur wholeheartedly. There is a public perception, but depending on who you ask, it might be a different public perception. But I would also concur and agree with you that we're trying to provide clarity and transparency and fact, I guess I would say, fact, not hearsay, not innuendo, not rumor, but begin the process of applying fact to what we've done, what we've expended, what we're planning to do, not on our own independently, but based on the direction and the pathway that the mayor and the council provide, that they want us, myself as the manager and the team, to implement. And so I guess I would just, again, concur with your statement. Your last statement for now was, we need to be careful. Without a doubt, we have to be careful, and we have to guard the interests of yourselves as the elected officials and guard the interest of the city of Las Vegas and our stake. And I think I hear, I don't think I hear, I know I hear loud and clear from the mayor and each and every one of you that it's our responsibility as the city of Las Vegas to govern our own existence. Do I see this agreement as relinquishing that? No, I don't. I see this agreement as potentially augmenting the work we do and taking in as much support as we possibly can to get the plant constructed and to deliver a product. I do see that there are benefits, absolutely, to having a partnership and working in conjunction with members of the state to help us do that. You made a comment, Mr. Mayor and Councilwoman Casey, that I think is also very important to note and expand upon. And for that, I would like to ask, I think the timing's good, Dr. Howe, if you would come forward, and Deborah, if you would come forward as well, and Dominic and Morris, stay tuned. We'll call you back up shortly. But I think one of the things that I want to be clear about as we convey information to the mayor and the council is that there are things that the city must do, I believe, to ensure that the plant is constructed in a professional manner and an appropriate manner in coordination with our team. It's not just utilizing the resources of consultants and other experts in the field, but it's also working with Mr. Martinez, our director, and his team in helping us get to that point as well. So I'll bring Mr. Martinez up here in a little bit, but what I would like, if you would, Dr. Howe, on the record, if you could speak to the outline that you've provided the city and the things that the city needs to be cognizant of, pay attention of, and do, whether or not the agreement with the state is executed or not. I think that's the operative piece. What we're going to recommend here and provide a framework for is, if it's an agreement with the state, these are things that will be at the table communicating with the state. And if it's on our own, these are things that we're going to do on our own moving forward, associated with design, plan, construct. And so the last thing I'll leave you with, so that I can turn it over to you, Dr. Howe, is can you speak to the reality that as a plant advances, the state's going to seek technical assistance from outside entities in the same manner we would? And if you could maybe start with that and then dive into your document, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, so I believe the primary agency that would be involved in managing this from the state's end would be the Environment Department. My understanding, my interactions with the Environment Department have been primarily from a regulatory point of view. And I'm not familiar or aware of their capabilities from design and construction management point of view of new water facilities. They may have those resources in-house, but I'm not aware of it. So my current assumption is that they would need to subcontract those capabilities out in the same way the city would need to contract those out. I do think the state, the Environment Department has a lot of capable and qualified people. I think one challenge that they have is, like a lot of other agencies, they're understaffed. If you go onto the State Department website and look at the list of positions and see how many of them are vacant, I think it's telling that the question needs to be raised, who within the department would be managing this, and is that position even filled at this point? Does that answer the question?
I think it does, yeah.
The only other agency that's named in the agreement, beside DFA, which I think the DFA piece of this is pretty tied to Senate Bill 6 reimbursement.
Those loans is DHSEM, which is the Department of Homeland Security. And
again, I mean, their function is to handle disasters around the entire state. I don't have,
having been a subcontractor for
DHSEM, I'm not aware of any capabilities that they have internally to do any kind of project management of this kind of scale. So I think the natural assumption, and maybe it's not good to make assumptions, but they would have to, and I think that's why it's specifically in there, they would have to subcontract all of this work out just the same way that the city would.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, are there any specific questions that any of the mayor, yourself, or the council have?
Councilors?
Questions?
Being none, is there any other items that you want to articulate associated with your outline that you'd like to provide on the record to this mayor and the council at this time, Dr. Howe?
I don't think so. I did send the email, so you have that and my thoughts on that available to you. I don't think there's any particular piece of that I need to repeat here today. I'm certainly available to expound on any of that if there's specific questions in regard to any of the issues I raised there.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Montoya.
You know, I think I just recognized our judge back there, our municipal judge, Mr. Eddie Trujillo. Welcome to our chambers, and it's nice to see you. I did have, Mr. Anaya, a question for you, for Mr. Hall. How many plants have you built? How many plants have you been involved with? And how successful were you on those plants?
So I'm not sure I can give you a number. I've been involved in several. I will say that in my career, the first half of my career, I was working for an engineering consulting firm and was designing water and wastewater treatment plants. The second half of my career, I've been in academia. I've been working at the University of New Mexico, and obviously during my tenure at UNM, I was not designing water treatment plants. I was doing research and teaching. But going back to my early consulting career, which was in the starting in 1986, ending in 1998, I guess I'll give you one example. I was the lead design engineer on a water treatment plant for the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was a replacement for a plant that had been built in the 1920s. We were essentially replacing it in 1990s. It was a 100 million gallon a day plant. The plant we're talking about here is the city of Las Vegas typical capacity of about 1.4 or 1.5 million gallons a day plant. So this was a 100 million gallon a day plant. It involved, the firm I was with did the design, and then it was a traditional design build. There were 8 separate construction contracts. The total cost of the plant was $75 million for a 100 million gallon a day plant. It was conventional surface water treatment, which is the same processes we're talking about here: coagulation, flocculation, sedimentation, granular media filtration, and disinfection with chlorine. So that's probably the best example I can give you of my experience with surface water treatment.
Thank you, Mr. Naya, Mr. Hall. What was the time period on that plant? From plan and design to construction to operational?
It's about 5 years.
5 years. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess there's no other questions right now. Mr. Martinez, I'd like you to come forward if you would. So, Mr. Mayor, if I could maybe set the table a little bit relative to the work that the city of Las Vegas has been doing for quite some time associated with water treatment plant. There has been a lot of work. There has been a lot of discussion associated with the water treatment plant. Adjustments were necessary related to what was planned prior to the flood event that happened last year. And I wanted to see first, Travis, Mr. Martinez, if you could speak to that event that occurred at the water treatment plant and how the prior design that was being considered would have been impacted had that plant been advanced or had it been built. Or if you could just speak to that first before we talk about concepts on options moving forward.
Excuse me. Mayor, Council, the original concept for the water treatment plant was a totally brand-new water treatment plant. And basically, on the decision of the city, it could be built in different capacities, basically on how big water production is, how big the city wanted it. There was estimations from 75 million to 85 million. There was estimations that it would take anywhere from 10 water technicians up to 35 water technicians. Basically removing the whole water treatment plant that we have now with a brand new one. It was all one building, 2 stories. It was pretty extravagant.
So, Mr. Mayor, Council, and Mr. Martinez, one of the things that we know and you know and you could speak to is that whatever the determination is on what plant we ultimately build, and this has been something that several members of the council have brought up on the record, is that we have to be able to, after the plant is designed, built, and operated, and then turned over, we got to be able to manage it and run it. Could you speak to that?
Yes. So, depending on how the water treatment plant is, direction that the city of Las Vegas goes, if you want a brand new water treatment or moving forward, operations are gonna change regardless of what you do. And it's dependent on the city for the manpower and the capability of doing it. So moving forward, those are big, questions that we have to ask ourselves. If you get, a water treatment plant that's too complicated, you're not gonna have employees that are gonna be able to do it within a certain time frame.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I think that addresses that point and I wanted it said on the record, so I appreciate it. Mr. Martinez, if you could now, as conceptual frameworks based on actual work and some discussions, many discussions that have taken place, can you just speak to the two pathways, actually three, right? The initial pathway is maintenance of our existing facility to sustain water as we.
Yes, sir.
So speak to those three, starting with the maintenance of the facility to continue to provide water, and then, and what are the, from your perspective, what are the recommendations relative to where we're at and what we need to consider? Maintenance and plan, design, construction of a facility.
So is it okay if I approach and give you guys a documentation that I put together?
Yeah, it's fine. And I would put forward that this information is not in lieu of an agreement. This is just a framework of possibilities associated with what we could advance either on our own or in partnership with the state of New Mexico. I would say that. Is that accurate, Caleb, do you think, what I said? All right.
So what I put together is just a quick executive summary of pros and cons of a new facility compared to a hybrid upgrade and expansion of what the existing facilities are. So first of all, to speak to what Mr. Anaya has said, the city of Las Vegas right now, we are in the middle of upgrading the facility that we have now to contend with the next couple years to get our water treatment plant to what the city decides to do. Based on that, there have been a lot of upgrades and advancements for the water treatment as it is now, contending with the water chemistry that we're dealing with. And that goes back to basically compliance. So, number one, there's a proposal for construction for a new water treatment plant. The overview of this is the city of Las Vegas is at a critical juncture in its water infrastructure development. In light of aging infrastructure, increased regulatory compliance demands, population needs, and vulnerabilities exacerbated by recent flooding and climate events, the proposal is to construct a new water treatment plant that has become the focus in strategic planning. This summary outlines benefits, drawbacks, and timelines associated with development of new facilities. The pros of building a new water treatment facility: its increased capacity and resiliency, supports future population growth, potential industrial and chemical expansions. It reduces strain on existing infrastructure, which currently operates under limited redundancy, enhances ability to manage extreme weather impacts and natural disasters, Number 2, improved water quality and regulatory compliance, incorporates modern treatment technologies, ensures long-term compliance with state and federal regulations, Safe Drinking Water Act, Surface Water Rule. Operation efficiencies, energy efficient systems with automated, reduced long-term operating costs, smart SCADA systems, improving monitor control and data collection. Public health and environmental benefits, provides consistent high water quality drinking water, reduces risk of treatment failures and boil water notices. And community confidence, demonstrates long-term commitment to infrastructure integrity and public welfare, and also enhances transparency and accountability in public services. Now the cons. The cons of the new water treatment plant. There are high capital costs. Estimated cost for a water treatment plant can range anywhere from 25 million to 60 million, depending on size, treatment, and location. Those are just an estimated costs. Long-term implementation time, it can take anywhere from 5 years to 7 years from concept to full operation. Delays in permitting or land acquisition can extend the schedule. Complex planning and permitting must address environmental impacts, land use, right-of-way, and public input. Also, navigating multiple regulatory agencies that can add time and complexity. Just an estimated cost. Long-term. No, it's okay. Temporary disruption, construction-related disruptions in nearby areas. Transitions from old to new plants require careful coordination. And long-term maintenance responsibilities. New systems require ongoing investment in staff training and system upkeep. Operational budgets must be realigned for new technologies and assets of the life cycle. Estimated timeline for water treatment plant. Remember, these are all just estimations. Number 1, the phase. The preliminary planning can be anywhere from 6 to 12 months. Needs assessment, stakeholder inputs, funding strategies, site selections. You have design and engineering. That could be anywhere from 12 to 18 months. Full facility design, environmental studies, permitting, procurement and bidding processes, 6 to 9 months. Bid selection, contractor selection. You have your construction, 24 to 30 months. You have site prep, building, installation of systems, testing. Then you have 3 to 6 months with the commissioning, operator training, performance testing, regulatory approval. Total timeline, pending if the process was smooth, can be anywhere from 4 to 6 years. Turnkey completion. That's if everything is smooth. If not, like it said before, anywhere from 5 to 7 years. Conclusion, while the financial and time investments are considerable, a long-term benefit of a modern, resilient, and efficient water treatment plant far outweigh the drawbacks. The city of Las Vegas must consider both urgent need for infrastructure modernization and the strategic advances this facility will provide, ensuring safe, reliable water for generations to come.
So if we could stop right there, Mr. Martinez, what I'd like to do, and I think he noted it several times, those are all estimates based on background, experience, and what you've seen and viewed relative to not just ours, but other treatment plants. Before you get into the next piece, Dr. Howe, if you could just speak to a new plant and maybe add feedback associated with what Mr. Martinez just presented.
Yes, thank you, Mr. City Manager. Yeah, so let me just expound a little bit on a number of the items that Travis brought up. So first of all, and this also I think addresses the issue that the criticisms that have come from some members of the community about nothing being done, right? So starting off, immediately after the 2022 fire, the previous utility manager commissioned a number of preliminary engineering reports for new facilities to address the effects of the wildfire. And that included 4 preliminary engineering reports on 4 different projects. One was a pre-treatment facility that would be located at the Guyanus River Diversion. There was a second pre-treatment facility that was to be located at Story Lake. The third was a new water treatment plant. And the fourth was a project called Agua Pura, which is basically taking your, upgrading the municipal wastewater treatment plant with advanced treatment technology, which could then be used for introducing highly purified municipal wastewater back into the raw water system. Basically, water from that plant would be reintroduced back into Bradner and Peterson reservoirs. Now, the number that was floated in terms of number of operators, I believe was based on all four of those projects. And a significant number of them was associated with the Agua Pura project because of that highly advanced water treatment, advanced water purification facility that is essentially built on top of taking treated wastewater and treating it more. That takes a significant number of operators. So those were all done. And drafts of those were completed in spring of 2024?
Yes.
Okay. When I was brought on in summer of 2024, one of the things that I was tasked with was reviewing those preliminary engineering reports and evaluating whether they are the right projects for the long-term resiliency of the water system. And I have finished a report that was prepared for the Salzer Group, and it went to Deborah Salzer and also to the previous city manager. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it yet. Where I reviewed all four of those projects, not only in light of their original objectives, but in light of the additional challenges that the water system had in summer of 2024. And I have recommendations to change that plan. So specifically, the idea was the two pretreatment facilities at Guyanus River and Story Lake would essentially reduce the turbidity from those sources and put low turbidity water into the reservoirs. And then the treatment plant would only need to treat low turbidity water. So the preliminary engineering report for the new water plant was based on water quality evaluation where the number that they used for the maximum turbidity of the new water plant was 49 NTU. And that was based on assumption that those reservoirs would only have essentially low turbidity water in them. What we know from the storm event of June 2024 was that the reservoirs were impacted by overland flow, and they had high turbidity water in them that would not have been prevented by the pretreatment facilities. So in essence, there wasn't necessary to change the path forward because the original path forward would not have addressed all of the city's water challenges. So in this report, I've got recommendations for not building the two pretreatment facilities and revising the design of the new water treatment plant so that it can treat high turbidity water by itself. So it's not dependent on having low turbidity in the city's reservoirs, that it can handle whatever it needs to handle. So that, those are significant changes. The preliminary engineering report on the new plant actually recommended a smaller capacity plant than what you currently have. So Travis mentioned growth of facilities for future population growth. If we go with the original preliminary engineering report done, it was actually going to be a smaller plant than what you have now. And I would recommend that you keep the capacity at least what it is now. Travis mentioned timeframes, and I think those are legitimate timeframes based on a traditional project delivery approach. So if we hire an engineering firm for design, do 100% complete design, 12 to 18 months, I think you said for that.
Yeah.
That sounds about right to me. 3 to 6 months for bidding. Construction, you said 24 to 30 months. I think those are all reasonable numbers. So then the question becomes, how do you accelerate that to a year and a half? One of the ways that this, you asked a question about how long it took the project that I did, and it was in the neighborhood of 5 years. And it was that traditional design, bid, build approach. So there are project delivery approaches that can accelerate the timeline. One of the things that's used these days is called design build, where you hire a joint venture of a design engineer and a construction company that do design and construction simultaneously. It increases the complexity of the process, but it accelerates, one of the things it does is accelerate the schedule. So for instance, you don't have to wait to get 100% design and then takes 3 to 6 months for bidding and then start construction. What you can do is say, get 30 or 50% into design. You know where all the buildings are going to be. You know where the yard pipe layout is. The contractor can start doing site work, for instance. In the email I sent last Thursday, I mentioned long lead items. There, with today's supply chain problems, long lead items are one of the things that's going to drag out the construction schedule. Those things can be identified early in the design and said, you know what, it's going to take a year to get electrical switchgear. We know how much power we need. We can order that halfway through design, as opposed to waiting essentially another year before you even order the equipment. So all of that to say, there are ways to accelerate the schedule by what procurement method you're going to use and whether or not you can identify and order some of those key pieces of equipment that are going to delay the project. These are the kinds of things I think would need to be discussed with the state as you enter into this agreement to make sure that everyone is on board with essentially the right strategies for accelerating the schedule. I don't know if I addressed everything you said.
No, I think
I need to get my water.
You're good. I think you have, and I think what I'd like to do now is, Travis, go on to your second piece. And then after you do your second piece, I'll let Dr. Howe respond again.
And also, just to continue on what Carrie had said, I had also recommended the same bid build process as well. So this next executive summary, it's called a hybrid upgrade and expansion of the existing water treatment facility. And the overview is a hybrid upgraded and expansion of its existing water treatment plant is to address critical aging infrastructure, improve water quality, reliability, and meet regulatory compliance standards. This approach includes both modernization of current systems and addition of new facilities such as filter buildings and upgrades to Clearwell to extend the plant's life and build resilience into the system. The pros of this approach is, number one, the cost-effective investment, less expensive than building a completely new facility while still achieving substantial improvements. Critical new infrastructure can add new filter buildings and upgrades to Clearwell key components currently in structural decline. Number three, improved water quality compliance incorporates updated treatment technologies and control systems to meet Safe Drinking Water Act and NMED standards. Number four, operational continuity keeps the plant in service during upgrades, avoiding major service disruptions. Leverages existing infrastructure, retains valuable assets like piping, intake structures, and site utilities. And number six, faster implementation, shorter permitting and design cycles. The cons are limited expansion capacity. Physical restraints at current site may restrict future growth beyond the project. construction complexity, working around live operations can increase scheduling and safety risks, hidden infrastructure risks, potential of unexpected problems during construction. Estimated project timeline is a preliminary assessment, 3 to 6 months, design and engineering, anywhere from 9 to 12, procurement and bidding, 4 to 6, construction, if phased out, anywhere from 18 to 24 months, and commissioning and turnover, 2 to 4, approximately anywhere from 3 to 4 years. The conclusion of this is the hybrid upgrade expansion strategy offers the city of Las Vegas a pragmatic and physically responsible pathway to modernizing its aging water treatment infrastructure while addressing immediate system vulnerabilities. By combining strategic upgrades and targeted with new construction, the city can secure water quality, improve system reliability, and build resilience without the full costs and timelines of new facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Dr. Howe?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, councilors. So I haven't seen that approach yet, so I can't comment in a tremendous amount of detail. There are, I think, a number of issues that Travis brought up. For instance, the complexity of keeping existing facilities running while you're building new facilities. And I would argue that the challenges are the same regardless of whether you're building new facilities on the plant site or upgrading existing facilities on that plant site. That's part of what the engineering and construction team will do. And this happens, I'll say, at almost every water treatment plant in the country. It's unusual to build what's called a greenfield water treatment plant, that we're just going to build a new plant on a new site and we don't have to worry about working around the old plant. That's what the engineers who design water plants and the contractors who build water plants, that's what they do. They know how to build around existing facilities and keep the existing facilities 100% functional during construction. So I would argue that it's the same either way. I think what Travis pointed out is some of the facilities definitely need to be new. For instance, filter building is going to be new, whatever approach you take. I think the question then becomes which facilities that are currently on the site can be upgraded and used in the existing plant. And I will say that I did also look at that in the report I did, and I think the two buildings that I think could be incorporated into the new plant are the raw water pump station and the, no?
No, I was agreeing.
Okay, I think the raw water pump station is could be upgraded and used, and the flocculation clarification structure is probably, I would recommend, and in here I recommend, upgrades in terms of what type of flocculators, what types of tube settlers, et cetera, but the concrete structure would be reasonable. In my opinion, every other portion of that plant, specifically the filter building and the clearwell building, need to be replaced. So I think in terms of which of those two paths, I think you want to have an environmental engineering company help evaluate those two options. And I think that could be done as part of, so the next steps, I mean, you've got this report. The next step is to have your, the city's project manager, the Salzer Group, essentially take the project forward. They would need engineering support to help do, make the next steps, but the next step would be they would engage what's called an owner's advisor as part of their team. One of the questions that could be put forth is, what's the, to flesh out Travis's memo here of advantages and disadvantages, how would you go forth deciding whether or not to reuse the raw water pump station and the flocculation clarifier building? You could evaluate the costs and the construction complexity of whether or not you reuse those two structures in the new plant. I think that all needs to be done by an engineering team. Again, going back to the design-build approach and accelerating the schedule, it is certainly possible that the project management team, the Salter Group with their engineering support, could lay out project requirements, and you could actually leave that decision up to the design-build team. Now you actually have a contractor on board who builds plants, and he can say, well, you know what, we're going to have problems with this pipe, and it's going to be really hard to build around this raw water pipe, and we should do this instead. The earlier you engage the construction experts, the easier it is to make those decisions and have accurate ideas of the cost and schedule implication of those decisions. I mean, we in the city and consultants like me can make our best guess and our estimates about like, oh, this should take 6 months. But you get a contractor on board and they'll be very specific about what can and can't be done, how much it's going to cost, and how fast they can do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Howe. Thank you, Mr. Martinez. I think I'm going to make a couple comments, and then I'm going to defer to the council and the mayor. I went through this exercise, Mr. Mayor and council, to convey to the council and the mayor many things that you may have already known, but maybe there's some things that you didn't know. And so I thought it was important to convey that information back to you, the mayor and council, as well as the public. I think Councilor Casey noted, and I think all councilors have noted, perception and questioning and a lot of a microscope, if you will, over the city of Las Vegas as to what's been done and what was implied or assumed not done. And so I wanted to provide the framework that, in fact, there is much that has been done on the staff side of the equation, as well as the contract support side of the equation, to advance a project forward to have a plant that's viable, provides clean water for years to come. What I'm going to speak to now is my own specific experience with plan, design, build, construct. Some years back, I was employed with the state of New Mexico, with the Department of Transportation, and I saw one of the largest, if not the largest, construction project, or one of the largest, built in the state of New Mexico through this same concept, and was part of the process of watching it and assisting it to completion, was the Governor's Rail Runner project. I had never seen the magnitude of how fast something could be mobilized and ultimately completed, not with the independent expertise, which is high functioning and high level at the state of New Mexico. I would put my colleagues at the time at the Department of Transportation alongside any Department of Transportation in the state of New Mexico. It was one of the best experiences that I had in a governmental state entity, was watching that entity function and build roads, basically, bridges, drainage ways, arterials, main thoroughways, mass transportation, buses, transit, the whole 9 yards. But I did see with my own eyes, and was part of the process of watching the state not on their own, but engaged experts in that field to bring to bear a rail runner project that was basically built on the fly. I can't say it any other way. I can remember going to San Felipe, the old outlet malls, and they had a setup there that I'll never forget, that had experts from around the country, and I think maybe even a few from out of the country, that on the fly got the project built. I watched it. And it wasn't, you plan, you prepare your documentation, you do your RFPs, you sit back, you do the advertising, you put it out to bid, you sit around, wring your hands and wait. It was every single day, hands on, all hands on deck, internal players with the Department of Transportation, contract support from within the state of New Mexico and out of the state of New Mexico, and it got done. And so I had a few questions this morning in my own mind as to, well, what are you going to recommend, Mr. Anaya, Robert? What are you going to do? And I asked a few of the clarifying questions. I had my staff that are sitting in here that went and helped dot a few I's and cross some T's. But I said to myself after I got that information, would a relationship with the state of New Mexico through the governor's support help expedite a project? The answer to that question, I will tell you unequivocally, is yes, it would. Are there ifs associated with that particular item I just stated? Absolutely, there are. Do I think in the mechanism of this agreement that we have a component that we can ultimately hold accountable, right? Because ultimately, it's not providing an agreement that the council would provide and walking away. We've worked with our legal, and that was a big question that I had, and I asked our attorney this morning, Mr. Zamora, I said, Gino, do we have in the agreement what I need and what we need as a city to assure that we're at the table? And the answer that I got was, yes, we do. We made the amendments that we needed. We didn't have the language as crisp as we wanted it, but it's in the agreement. And I said, what's the protection that I have as the manager that's going to carry out the operation in partnership with people sitting at this table, internal and external? What is the assurance that I have that? And he said, well, you have the working group that you're going to be at on a regular basis. And ultimately, and he called it to my attention, I had already written it down on my book. The primary piece, and I'll look at each of you individually, the primary piece that you have as a mayor and council is that termination clause and the amendment clause. 2 clauses in the agreement that provide that support. If there's other agreements, I already said earlier, I want to recess and go ask that we have those if they absolutely need to be in here. I will do that. I work for you. I work for you, the mayor and the council. But can I sit here in good faith and say, is this a worthy venture to take a leap of faith? I will say yes. I will say yes. But we have provisions in here that will help us remain at the table to work through the matters that we have to deal with. And if they don't, I will be the first one back here to say they're not upholding what they said they would uphold. And I would recommend we terminate the agreement. I won't be afraid to do that, and I won't be scared to do that. And I want to, if I could, there's one individual, if I could, Mayor, before we go, before I turn it back over, if I could, is Mr. Marquez, you were in the room with us when we started the process, and I want you to articulate it wasn't a pleasant process when we started, but speak to what your involvement was in the process, and provide comments on the record to the mayor and the governing body associated with what transpired the first day and then how it's evolved to where we are today.
Sure, Mayor, Council, so we did attend that meeting that the mayor had set up with the governor. It was, again, supposed to be just a meeting between us three and a couple of constituents that the governor had. As we walked into the round, I guess it's a round table room, we were kind of, a little bit in shell shock, to say the least. We had 13 different people in there, including cabinet secretaries and also legal staff that were in there. To just put it straightforward, we got a chance to just get to know each other, shook each other's hands, introduced ourselves, and the next comment was, here's an MOU that the governor has set in place for you guys, and we need you guys to make a decision at this table right now, and no later than 5 o'clock today. The mayor did stand up and say, I'm not capable of doing that. I need my council to go ahead and agree to this MOU. It turned into an area where we were told that, if we didn't sign it, there would be other alternatives that they would use to make us come into compliance with what they were wanting to do. At that point, Mr. Anaya went ahead and engaged and talked to the staff that were on hand, and in front of everybody, he let them know that he saw where they were coming from, and he stepped back, pointed a couple of fingers at Mr. Diego, the cabinet secretary, I believe, for the governor, and asked him for 2 minutes, and they pulled us into another small conference room, and from there the negotiations began. Mr. Anaya pretty much put it down on the table that the city needs to be involved in everything that's going to be discussed with this MOU. From there, he came back with some different parts of it. We stepped away, went to one of our attorneys, spoke with him, got some things out on paper, and from there we came back over here. Next day, we had things on with the new MOU, we had some new provisions put on there, and it continued to a back and forth conversation between us and our attorney and the state. And then we wound up with the final draft where we stand today. And that's the logistics. It was a very uncomfortable feeling, though, I'll be honest with you guys. It was pretty rough to walk in there and see so many people against just us three. We took no city attorneys. We took no other staff. It was just myself, the mayor, and Mr. Anaya. And as me experienced this, it's the second time I get to be in that room. But that experience that day was pretty rough, and I know Mr. Anaya saw it, but he came up to me and he said, don't worry, we'll take care of this, we're gonna be okay. And we went in there, and he held his ground. So one thing I can say is the city has appointed a fighter for the city. So that's one thing for sure. He stood his ground and against a lot of people over there that day.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, thank you. So we'll go ahead and discussion, council.
Mr. Mayor, I saved my comments for this time during the council meeting, and I hope I can start and finish my comments. Mr. Anaya, I thought you were going to say I-25. That was a hell of a big project also that Governor Richardson in those days worked out. But I remember being in the mingle of that conversation on the Roadrunner, and they didn't know where they were going to run it through because they had to buy a lot of property. And I said, why would you be, at that time I worked for the New Mexico DOT, and I said, why would you be wanting to buy property? You have the property. He says, what do you mean? Interstate, I-25. So the only property really that they put a lot of money into was the native properties. But that was a great, and it still is a great kind of transportation for the New Mexico Department of Transportation. There's been other projects throughout the whole state that the governor, different governors have supported, and the legislature has supported. But and I'm sorry, some people might say that politics isn't involved in all this. I mean, politics is involved in everybody's kitchen table. But let's not forget that election is coming around in November, and all faces here might not be here January 1st, 2026. And here we go again, reinventing the wheel, starting all over again. Let us not forget that the legislature, with the support of the governor, Senator Pete Campos, Representative Ambrose Castellano, Representative Joseph Sanchez, and of course myself, lobbied, and I think, what's her name? The one that's, Ellie? Ellie was at the center of that table, lobbying for the Senate Bill 6, $100 million in loans for communities that were affected with the fires for immediate use of those funds, which Las Vegas took advantage of by acquiring the $20 million, or 21. You know, I'd like to assure the citizens of Las Vegas by saying that the governor and all her 21 of her department secretaries were the first ones in Las Vegas in support after the fires and floods occurred. At that time, she said she would hold the federal government accountable, and I believe she still feels that way. That's her job as governor. And I'll take it one step further. The city, as well as the state, have attorneys on contract that we haven't used. If accountability is not met in a timely manner, those are still available to us. And the governor will not be afraid to use them. And they have the funding to support that. I see it that the state is our big brother, our big sister for all New Mexico communities. They are there to support us, encourage, assist during disasters, and ensure our communities are safe to live in. As per our community, public perception, away from not being transparent, our track record shows otherwise. Having gone through 2 mayors in two terms, in 2 administrations, having gone with 3 councilman positions opened, vacant, and filled, having gone through 3 city managers in 4 years, 3 city managers, 1 city attorney, which is still vacant in the last 2 years, 2 administration positions, 2 police chiefs, 2 finance directors, 2 economic development directors, 2 senior citizen directors, 1 utility directors, 1 HR director, 1 public works director, 2 recreation directors, 2 librarians, 1 or 2 museum directors. That path does not show me accountability nor stability, and that's what it shows to our citizens of Las Vegas. The state can control the regulation and the permitting. If they permit themselves, well, so be it. Whatever has to happen needs to happen. But we need that plant built. Not yesterday, not last year, but tomorrow. The governor says 1.5 years. I doubt it. You're the expert here that we have, that we're paying for. You know, it's kind of impossible. But I think she was mentioning she can get it done faster. So either way, she can jump hoops and get it done in a timely manner. Yeah, I have plenty of concerns. Who's going to be responsible for the water, quality of water from this point on? If the state wants to be accountable of the quality of water for Las Vegas till the plant is built, let him have it. Why not? The city has spent at least $7 million with $0 in return. Still waiting. Why not have the state build it and run it for till a year after it's been built? That way all the bugs are out and we know that it's working, and that's our assurance that they've done a good job. Visible? Yes. Mr. Anaya says this is an outline that has been established on this agreement. Modifications have and will need to be amended on this as we go along on this project. It's a must. There's going to be areas that aren't covered here that we'll still have to work on with the state. As long as we're in a partnership and they're responsible for it, the water quality and so forth, I mean, and we have our input and we say we want storage tanks, we want this, we want that, we need this, we want that, we have our input. It's a working hand-in-hand situation, I would say. You know, the road that I don't want to go is that I don't want to spend unnecessary taxpayer dollars in additional legal fees. I think the city of Las Vegas is already overwhelmed with legal fees. We've already spent millions of dollars, the city of Las Vegas, in our water system, in our Taylor wells, in the infrastructure of our system, on storage, acquiring water rights, lawsuits, and this and the other. So I hear you, Mr. Anaya, and I thank you for what you've done, for communicating the best interest of the city of Las Vegas, I'm going to say. I know these things are hard. I know I felt like I was being left out on a little bit of stuff here and there, but I understand the way things work. But I'll be the first one to say that I am in favor of this state taking over. We've had the mayor signed an MOU agreement with the federal government, with FEMA back in October of last year, was it? October of last year, which, the rightful thing that we did is this governing body invested that money. We didn't just put it under a rock. We invested some monies, and now we have $13 million or $3 million additional to spend, or the state does, whichever. I still say that the FEMA money is one pocket, the SB 6 money was another pocket, and we should have been gaining interest on the Senate Bill 6 portion of it, which, to my calculation, would have amounted to $680,000. Either way, I think they're willing to help us. They have the manpower, I would say, versus, what municipality, what business, what state isn't lacking laborers? We've had 50 vacancies in the last year, throughout the year. Call it savings, call it whatever you want, but it's everywhere you go. But if the money is there and you attract these people that need to do this kind of line of work, it will get done. The same way that the mayor brought in 56 trucks, or how many trucks? 76 trucks of water to Las Vegas. The money was there, they brought it in. So
It wasn't me that brought him in.
Huh?
It wasn't me that brought him in.
Well, it was under your, you're in charge of the emergency crisis at that time. The thing is that this needs to get done. People don't trust us. We might not be here. There's a lot of questions. A lot of unanswered things. Maybe 3 or 4 more new faces will be here. I don't know. Who knows? But to start reinventing the wheel again and this and the other, the losers would be our community. Our community would be the ones to lose on this deal. And they have nothing but to gain. And there's organizations and there's groups and there's people that have already reached out to the governors and requested that the state take over. And I think probably that's one of our big pushes on this, other than we haven't spent the money. And I've been saying, we have money, let's spend it. But nevertheless, that's neither here or there. I support this, Mr. Anaya, and if there's no other discussion, Mr. Mayor, I would be willing to make a motion.
I think there's any more discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Martinez?
I'm also looking at this with a fine-tooth comb and trying to understand all the holes in it, all the loopholes in it. One of the things that we did discuss, which was just currently brought up by Mr. Howe, was the Aguapura system that you just mentioned. I would hate for us to give the reins over to the state of New Mexico and then find out, well, this is what you're gonna get, when we already discussed that we don't want that. the city of Las Vegas didn't want, that kind of a system in place, even though that might have been what a previous utility director was doing for the community. That was never discussed by mayor and council at any point, and I wouldn't want to be handed down something that somebody else developed, and we're getting forced, at the table to take, So,
If I could,
yes, please.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman Martinez, I would tell you this respectfully based on what is in the agreement. We have a set of reins that say, their rein, if we provide approval on this agreement, would be a thicker rein, but we would still have our hand on the reins. And if, Mr. Mayor, Councilman Martinez, that wasn't reality when we go into the organizational meetings for the joint working group, which is listed in the agreement. It's explicit in here. We shall work on a joint working group collectively as we go through this process. And I would just say that Mr. Mayor, Councilman Martinez, if you would support the agreement and that does not happen, if we, for example, would go to the joint working group meetings and articulate items, much of which has been articulated today by Mr. Martinez and Dr. Howe, and the feedback was, we're not going to do that, or we're not going to take those into consideration, I'll be here at the next meeting. I won't wait months for this to evolve and the process to evolve. I'll be here at the next meeting and say, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, they didn't uphold the root piece at the very beginning. So Mr. Mayor, Councilman Martinez, and the full council, I promise that. I'm committed to that. And I'll have my staff hold me accountable to that every day. And so if that doesn't happen, I'll be right back here saying to you, we need to get out of the agreement. I mean, that's the only way I could put it.
No, thank you, City Manager. I just, in light of what, Councilman Montoya mentioned there, we have an opportunity to move forward with something also. I mean, we're playing on two sides of the field, and it's very difficult. But it would be crazy for the city, for us to represent the city and not get an entire piece done. Not pieces of a water treatment project done. Who wants pieces of something done? I don't agree with, well, we need to keep this, we need to keep that. There's $98 million at stake, and it needs to be done appropriately. If it's gonna be done, it needs to be done from A to Z. And we shouldn't have to be worried about where we're gonna save money for the state of New Mexico or anybody else for that matter, or even the city of Las Vegas. We're not interested in that. We wanna make sure that we have a piece that's 100% complete. And we're not altering that by any means. I just can't see us getting into an agreement with the state of New Mexico if we don't do it completely, full force, 100%. I know the timeline, according to Dr. Howe, is it feasible for us to have, a year and a half? Can it be done? I don't know. I have no knowledge of that. I can tell you what other things might be taken, what other things might work, but that's a big project, and it's there's a lot that goes into it. Again, Councilman Montoya, yourself, you talked about the rail runner. Yeah, it was brought to light in a very short period of time. But I want to reassure the people, the public of our community, that if we're gonna go into this agreement, that we're gonna get a product that's complete and not pieced. You know, one of the other questions I kind of like fell back into was the $98 million, if I'm correct, it's not only for water treatment plant, even though the agreement says water treatment plant. But it talks about our water distribution, our wastewater treatment plant as well.
If I could, Mr.
Please,
Mayor, I
please
think,
do.
if I could speak to that specifically, because I think that's a very important piece of the equation. One of the things that we did intentionally and methodically from the beginning, from the minute we got the agreement to the process of getting here today, was delineate that the assistance we are seeking from the state is focused and centered on the temporary and permanent water treatment facility. The other pieces you note are correct. You're absolutely right. Those pieces that are connected to distribution, that are connected to our reservoirs, that are connected to potentially water meters and other facets of the system, thanks to the efforts of this city council and governing body from the mayor and the whole council, you were able to get amendments to afford us the ability to use the 98 million, not just for the plant, but also for the system. We have the capacity, and we've said that from the beginning, to carry out the projects that aren't gonna be directly related to the plant. We're gonna be at the table as we work with the state, and yes, they're gonna have the lead role, but we're gonna be side by side in the development of what that will look like and what the plant will look like, and I would agree 100% with you, complete. But on the other side of the equation, we're gonna still have the ability to perform the functions we need to do connected to the system. So we decoupled the water treatment plant, temporary and permanent, from the rest. And that's an important point. So I'm glad you brought it up, because it's important that I articulate that on the record. Mr. Martinez had something he wanted to add, if he could. Is that okay, Mr. Councilman?
Yeah, please.
I wanted to add to the statement that Mr. Montoya had made also with you guys. As far as utilities goes and working with Mr. Howe, the city of Las Vegas had these 4 projects. And I'm not sure if you guys were aware of the workload that had already been taking place prior to what each project does, to how they facilitate and how they work with each other. Now, coming down to the flood that we had in June and Mr. Howe came in, he's been working on those projects to see if they're a benefit to the city. I'm just saying, were you guys aware of the projects that were taking place to begin with? So when I was brought in, as each of you know me, I'm about efficiency. And are they gonna work? Are they gonna benefit the city? Do we need them? Do we not? I wasn't aware of the projects until I came on. As a project manager before, I was not privy to those projects, so I couldn't tell. So coming to you guys today, and you know, the city we've been working on upgrading our system to get us to the new system. That's a major thing that we've had to do because of the challenges we've had since the flooding, and then the Arctic blast, and so on and so forth that the treatment plant has been doing. Now, coming forward to you guys today with something like this, Mr. Howe did his evaluation, and based on that evaluation, will tell you the best way that the city can go, but it's documentation for you guys to go off of. Now, we keep saying, you know, the state. Mr. Anaya is right, you know, going with the state and working with them will help advance the project. Why? Because, like I said earlier, in both of them, you're gonna require permitting no matter what you do. It doesn't matter, you know, and who's in charge of the permitting? The state, you know. Now, everybody wants to know, you know, are we gonna be at the table? Where are we gonna be? It's our system, regardless of the fact. We drink the water here, all of us. And going, they don't know our system. The Drinking Water Bureau knows a lot, but they don't know the operations day in and day out the way that we do. And as far as going, maybe Kerry can speak a little bit to this, but once the project is done, it belongs to the city no matter what. Now, if anything, if you want to state anything to that.
Let me just,
Pretty much hit it.
Councilman Martinez, did you have any other?
No, I think, I mean, I just kind of wanted to touch on that, you know, I don't want to, I'm in favor of a lot of things, and, you know, naturally, I'm in favor of this, and I can see some good coming out of it, but there's holes in it, and, you know, whether we sign this agreement today or not, there's gonna be holes in it. There's gonna be some what ifs, and there's gonna be, well, that's your part, that's not our part. And we're gonna have to work through those things, and everybody here knows that. But I don't wanna forget the people that helped us get here either, okay? Dr. Howe, Deb, you know, you guys have been a big part of where we're at today, and I just do wanna make certain that we have these experts on our side helping us moving forward, okay? I would feel comfortable with it. You guys are more experts than I'll ever be in that field. And I think it's a win for the community if we, you know, finally get something started and ended, and hopefully within a timely basis.
And in all reality, the thing about this and my preference to this is it does take time. This is a big undertaking, but something for me is me and my staff want something that's gonna last for years to come. We don't wanna just jump into something and say, oh, okay, this is what the expert's saying, this is what we're gonna do. We've gone multiple rounds, me and Kerry, on what should be done, what it takes, you know. He is the expert, we're operations. You know, we want something, I got 10 more years left to retire. I want my son to drink better water than I got. So, you know, it's something that we want for the next 30, 40 years, to where the next generation comes in and, you know, they don't have to worry about the situation that we're going through. So in order to spend all this money, we want to go the right way and do it right the first time. Not have to come back and do it again, or something happens that we missed out or anything like that. So as far as it goes, everything here is being done by the experts and which way we should go.
And I really don't want to be dependent on consultants after that water treatment is built, that plant is built.
That's why it's
And
first time.
we don't want to be in a position where we're having to pay for people to come and train us for another 20 years. We don't need that. We need to have our own people qualified to be able to run it after we receive it. And it's just, there's a lot to it, and everybody knows what we're talking about. Everybody here understands where we're at. We need to make the best choice for our community moving forward. And I think we need to, go ahead, Mayor, you wanted to mention.
Yeah, I just
something.
wanted to make just one comment, and now let Councilor Casey, and then we'll just move on action. But my comments here, I just want to clear up a few things, and it's very clear in this MOU, this is not a takeover. This MOU is an agreement, working together, a working partnership with the state of New Mexico. This isn't a takeover. The 98 million will still be in the city's coffers. There will be a disbursement basis on any consultants or any expertise that the city brings. And of course, the biggest part that we keep talking about is this joint effort. So I just want to make that clear, that this MOU is a joint partnership and not a takeover. And this is something that, you know, in our city managers' workings and the staff and legal and back and forth, it's been transpiring for about 2 weeks now. You know, a lot of work has been done, and I know that as we move forward, it's just going to be a partnership and not a takeover. With that, Councilor Casey, and then I'll go ahead and next for.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope I don't offend anyone, but I have some real concerns about the agreement. period. I think everybody knows that already. But I don't appreciate trying to be swayed by anyone how I should vote. And each counselor has their own opinion, which is fine. We all vote according to what we believe and what we think as individuals who represent this city, how we think would be the best way to go for the community. There's a lot of times that we haven't agreed on anything. Sometimes we've had to table things because we couldn't come to an agreement. But those decisions are up to the council. Not even the mayor sways us on how we vote. And so I think it's very important for everyone to know that we have already read the information. We've asked questions on it. If there's something we don't understand, we ask. If we need more information on something, we ask. But I personally do not appreciate trying to be swayed one way or the other, because I am the one that gets to cast that vote, and I vote the way I believe is the best thing to do for the city. And although I may be outvoted, at least I had the opportunity to speak and think on my own. And I think that that is very, very important for all of us to keep in mind. If Councilor Montoya says something that I like, if he changes my mind, it's like, oh, well, I hadn't thought about that. Or if Councilor Martinez makes a comment that I think is, beneficial or something that I can live with, agree to. Same thing with Councilor Olivari. But I'm still the one that is going to cast that vote one way or the other. So I just wanted to make that very clear and to let people know that I will vote with what I think is best for the city. And whatever the outcome is the outcome, and I will go with it however it goes. However, I just want people to know that I think for myself, and I am not easily swayed. You have to be very, very convincing to me that this is the very, very best thing that can happen. And I have several concerns, not only about the agreement itself, but how it will actually come to fruition in the future if we agree to, agree to the agreement with the state. And I just hope that in the future, I don't have to come back and say, I told you so, because I've done that before with other issues that we have voted on. And I've had to come back and say, I may be the sole vote on something, but I'm very careful about what I read and how I think about things and the questions that I ask, so that whatever I say or do is how that is my personal belief, and that is how I will cast my vote today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. At this time, is there any action on this?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to point out a couple of things. I based my decisions on my research, my involvement, my knowledge and my experience, and my little education. Lastly, I just want to thank the Office of Ben Ray Lujan for assisting us in Washington for these efforts, for this FEMA funding. And with that, Mr. Mayor, it's in the best interest, I believe, of all parties involved and our citizens and our community. And I move to approve the approval of the State of New Mexico intergovernmental agreement with the City of Las Vegas. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Montoya. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
I have a second by Councilman Olivari. Roll call.
Councilor Olivari?
Yes.
Councilor Montoya?
Yes.
Councilor Casey?
No.
Councilor Martinez?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Olivari. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think one of the things that I said previously is that the working group is going to be essential to moving forward. And so I will work collaboratively with yourself and the whole council and staff to assemble recommendations associated with that working group and engage in the work at hand to begin the process of carrying out the functions listed in the agreement.
Mr. Mayor. Councilman.
Mr. Anaya, and Mayor and Council, I do have one last request. You know, this is a big thing for our city of Las Vegas and our citizens, Mayor and Council, our staff, everyone. I would ask that you send out an invitation letter to the governor and her staff, to Senator Ben Ray Lujan, to Pete Campos, our senator, to everybody that has been involved in this project. Our staff, I would request that you'd send a letter to the governor, invite her back to Las Vegas, and let's do a big thing about this. And let's show the collaborative efforts that we're doing between the city and the state. And let's get a big photo of our consultants, our city staff, our representatives, senators, everyone, mayor and council. Get them in one day and have a big deal about it. This is monumental. I mean, I don't think the state has ever, I don't know, gotten an agreement like this, an agreement with any municipality or town or community of this magnitude. So, you know, I ask that if that can happen, I mean, it would be really nice.
So Councilor, that was already part of the discussion if it did get approved, so.
And I would defer to the mayor that had articulated that very thing. So I would defer to you, Mayor, on the contact and the communication to get that, help us, let us know what I need to do to help.
The discussion was already, you know, depending on how it went, one way or another, you know, moving forward and making sure that we do work together.
Another part of the discussion, so that's recommendation.
All righty.
Thank you.
So with that, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Councilman Montoya, second by Councilman Olivari.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.